Here we are Thursday, the last full day of Sibos. Simon, you're from RBS. How has Sibos in general been for you guys over at the bank?
I think it's been a great Sibos this year. I think it's been incredibly busy for all parts of certainly our business. We've had more client meetings than before. We've been very busy on the conference agenda, and I think the whole mood of the conference has been quite different from last year. I think it's, whilst we still see collectively lots of challenges ahead, whether those are economic or regulatory, I think the mood of the conference this year, if I can describe it in probably two ways. The first is a sense of cautious optimism. Clearly there's lots still to do, but nevertheless there's some positives, there are some things to go for. And secondly, I think the other part of the mood of the conference is a general sense that the way forward is through partnership and cooperation. And that's a very strong message that's come through lots of different conference sessions I've seen, where I think a lot of banks who are now seeing themselves, particularly the transaction banks, are seeing themselves very much front of house within their businesses, within their banks, but are seeing that the way forward is through understanding their whole value chain and seeing where it makes sense to do stuff on their own, where they have competitive advantage, but that actually working with others and collaborating with others, and they may be other banks, they may be technology providers, they may be infrastructures providers, is very much something that all banks need to consider and is very much the way of the future.
There's been a lot of big issues talked about at Sibos this year. People talking about mobile, cloud, and of course standards. From a payments industry point of view, what were some of the big issues to affect the payments industry that came out of Sibos this year?
Well, there's been a number of really big issues. I think I'll talk about regulation first, not least because that's very appropriately one of the three themes that SWIFT picked for this year's Sibos. So on the regulatory side, the issue of SEPA and the SEPA end date has very much been a hot topic this week, as we all expected it to be. I was lucky enough to participate in a panel session on Monday afternoon where we focused on the SEPA initiative. Of course, we discussed where we are today with the SEPA regulation and what we hope to see in it when it arrives. We also looked, in a slightly different twist, at how the SEPA initiative is being studied and in some ways copied now, or replicated, as we said in the session, in other parts of the world. And I think that's a very positive and interesting story. And I think there are things that Europe can learn by the way other parts of the world are approaching their own regional payments initiatives, in the same way that those other initiatives are very much learning from the SEPA experience. So that's one clear regulatory initiative that's had a strong focus. There have been others, of course. Basel III has taken up a lot of attention at the conference, and particularly, given this is the Sibos conference, its implications for payments and trade. And again, that was something that featured strongly at the transaction banking leaders plenary session yesterday. And there seemed to be a sense that whilst clearly there are challenges, there are issues, there are some implications around things like the provision of and management of intraday liquidity, that the way forward is to continue the very productive discussions so far with the regulators, with a view to understanding and working through the best way of bringing those regulations into their final form in a way that allows the transaction banking industry still to perform its key role at the centre of world trade.